Hello and welcome to the Undressing the Spirit podcast, where sex and spirit go hand in hand. Join me, Tamara Perel, on a no-holds-barred adventure into the psyche and beyond every conceivable limit. Welcome back to Undressing the Spirit. Boy, do I have a treat for you. At least I hope it is. Today is my first solo, or almost solo, episode. And I gotta say, you know what? There are probably two kinds of podcasters out there, guys. There are the type who love talking to other people and doing interview style. That's who I thought I was. And then there's the type who like doing solo broadcasts. And for some reason, that second category really kind of intimidated me. There's just something a lot different about speaking just to my computer screen. You know what I mean? Not having that real-time feedback. But I thought, why not give it a shot? And so today, I am kicking off a new series on sexual intimacy and some of the struggles that I see many couples going through, hence the barriers to sexual intimacy. And I'm hoping to bring you some very common practical tips to help you soar towards your greatest satisfaction in the bedroom yet. And I have a super special surprise for you today. I somehow convinced my boyfriend of nearly a year, Will, to join me for a brief interview so that I could get a man's perspective for a hot second. And so you're going to get a little glimpse into my life before I bring you the first 3 common barriers to sexual intimacy. And so without further ado, on with the show. Hey, handsome. Welcome to my podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I don't know. What am I supposed to say here?
I don't know. But
Hi, Tamara.
You have a sexy radio voice.
So I've been told.
So you know that I am starting a series on intimacy in relationships, and I can't wait to get your perspective on that. But for my listeners, why don't you tell them how we met? Because that's a fun story.
Well, it was in high school, in Christian Academy, Swansea, Mass, and we were...
That's very specific.
Yeah. We were in the first day's chapel where they get everybody together and, you know, basically tell everybody this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And you were sitting in the front row with the senior class while I was sitting in the back row, being the new kid. And
you were a sophomore.
Yes, I was a sophomore, and you were the dreamboat blonde senior that, you know, the sophomores thought about but never got with.
Aw.
And I saw you stand up and start walking out in the nice lined procession that they had us do in that school, and I fell in love when I saw you and your smile the first time.
Aw, way to make a girl melt. And I had no idea, I swear. So
I had no idea.
I had no idea. And yet we sat next to each other almost most days in study hall, right? Didn't we have study hall almost every day?
Yes, every day.
Every day. And we had assigned seats or assigned tables, and you sat next to me and helped me with my algebra homework.
True story.
True story. But it took 20 years for us to get together.
Yep, 20 years of other things.
Of other relationships tried and lost, and
True story.
Not always great intimacy, which is what we're chatting about today.
Yes, absolutely. Lots of years of bad intimacy.
Of faceless orifices, as I like to say.
Yes, your favorite term for me, my past faceless orifices.
Yes, they do not exist for me.
Nope.
So I want to hear your perspective, hon, since we are coming up on 1 year that we've been together. And so far, our relationship's been probably the best for both of us, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, 100%.
Listeners are like, she just led him into that.
No, 100%. There's not even close to anybody else. Everybody else was just kind of like a space filler to get back to where I was supposed to get from you at high school, but it didn't have the courage to go for.
Aw, space failure. That's what she said. Ha! So, from your perspective, hon, what do you think makes for a really good intimacy side of a relationship?
There's connections between certain people that you don't always get. And in my opinion, the best intimacy is when you get two people that are really into each other, and when they are, then they seem to flow physically, mentally, in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, and you don't even have to say anything to them. You just you move your leg a little bit, and they know that this is what's happening, and we're moving in synchronicity because it's there, and it's not always there with other people, but with us, it definitely is there.
For sure. I just listening to you just made me go, oh, I'm dreaming about those moments. Sorry, guys, brain fart. It's getting hot in here. So what do you think then are some barriers to that? Because some relationships are naturally more work than others. So what do you think, even for us, what has been some of the struggles that we've had to get over in keeping that side of our relationship hot?
I think that depending on how much hurt or whatever is in a person's relationship really kind of ends up putting walls in place that are hard to overcome sometimes. But if you're with the right person and you work on it together, then you can get past those past transgressions and problems and work forward to having great sex and dropping those barriers and not have to be afraid. Oh, does she like this? Am I doing this right? None of that even matters anymore. And I'm sure that girls have the same thing. In the beginning of a relationship, or especially in a sexual relationship, they don't know. Does the guy like this? Is this working? How does my ass look?
I wish we didn't think about that, but sometimes we definitely think about that. So you actually hit upon two of the ones that I'm going to talk about today, ironically, or not ironically, because we are so synchronous, is the self-esteem piece of it. It's hard to have great sex when you're being self-conscious, and that emotional safety. So if a couple is struggling with either outside baggage or conflict, it's really kind of hard to have great sex.
True story.
So last question for you. What do you think? You talked about having that instant connection, but other than that, is there anything else that you think really helps make a sexual relationship fun, good, etc.? What are some characteristics of a great sex life?
The freedom of being able to do what you like, and to know that your partner is comfortable and into you enough to respond to that in a positive manner. If you're with the wrong girl and she's not into oral, and you
really are.
You really are. And I mean, every guy is, but if she's not into it and then she does it, you can tell, and it's not, it's not great. It doesn't hype you up. It doesn't turn you on to make you want to go more, forward into it. It makes you just kind of go, well, I know.
I should have just taken care of myself.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, couples have to be into it and be authentic in their sexual scripts, it sounds like.
Right, absolutely. If somebody likes kink, then, and the other person has to be at least accepting of it, if not into it themselves, for it to be fun for both people. If somebody's into role play, it's the same thing. No matter what the sexual script is or what you're into, the other person either has to be willing to be part of that, or, at least into it themselves. I don't know.
No, definitely. Like, give it a shot, or at least don't shame your partner. Try to find something else that you guys can both play in, I think is very important.
Absolutely.
Well, I love you. Thank you for joining me.
I love you too.
And now, like Paul Harvey once said, the rest of the story. So this week I thought in celebration of my first solo episode, or semi-solo, I guess I should say, since Will joined me for the intro, I thought we would start a series on intimacy, right? Because Undressing the Spirit is all about sex and spirituality, and what better place for those two things to come together than in a relationship between two partners, or however many partners are playing. And so I want to share with you some of the most common barriers that I see in my private practice and some of the ways that you can avoid them or overcome them. And so I originally thought it would just be one podcast, but when I got to writing, I saw that there were a lot. And so I'm thinking I'm going to break it down by threes. And so today I want to start with the first three that are very common issues for most couples or anybody who wants to play together in that sort of fashion. The first one that I see a lot is schedule. What happens when a couple has a very tight schedule? Maybe they have kids at home. That's certainly kind of difficult. And I'm going to save that part for another time. But what happens when our time together is limited? That can certainly put a damper on mojo for sure. Or what happens in the case of like my relationship where we're just not always home at the same time. In fact, half of the week we're kind of ships passing the night. Will is a chef in a restaurant, and restaurants are typically busy in the evening. So while I do my work during the mornings to early afternoons and I come home, he's leaving about the time that I'm going in. So here's what you can do if your schedule is something that is keeping you from those great orgasms. Number one, it's important to fit it in when you can. I know, not always the sexiest idea, but it's true. There are ways that you guys can have this type of conversation, as my favorite woman crush, Esther Perel, would say. She says sex is a conversation just like any other. And that's true. There are ways that you can do that through simply tweaking things. And so sometimes that might mean meeting up for a quickie. Other times it may simply meaning a few, makeout sessions. In fact, the best type of sexuality is a worldview where you're not always focused on penile vaginal penetration to climax. In fact, for those who have that very narrow-minded rigidity in their sexuality, they tend to report lower levels of satisfaction because it really cuts us off from our sensuality. And we can be sensual together in so many ways. In fact, it can just be sexy to have a great conversation, to look at one another through new eyes, through flirting, through running my hands down someone's body, right? It doesn't always have to be a marathon in the bedroom. It is also incredibly important when scheduling is an issue, or just in general, folks, to have a regular designated date night. And I know, once again, people are like, oh God, Tam's routine? You want me to schedule sex? Well, yes, I do. And here's why. When a couple makes sex a priority and makes spending together, or time together rather, a priority, and puts it on the calendar first before everything else, we are letting ourselves and each other know that our relationship is a priority. And there's a beautiful added benefit to this that many miss, and that it allows for anticipation. And do you know what the erotic mind loves? Anticipation. This allows us to really tap into our sacral chakras, into our creative side of our minds, and set the stage, both mentally and even physically, for that fun eroticism that's going to take place towards the end of the week, perhaps. And so I've heard counselors talk about things like intimacy jars, which is a great idea. In fact, Emma Schmidt was one who most recently mentioned it. She mentioned it on my podcast. You can go back and listen to episode 3 if you missed that. And what she described, basically, here's my Tam's paraphrase, is setting up, a jar or a vase or a pretty vessel on each side of the bed, one for me and one for you. And in that jar goes everything that would make someone feel special. And by someone, I mean you. So you're going to put on little scraps of paper, things that you would like to do. And it can go far beyond just kinky sexual sort of things, although please put some of those in there too. But also other perhaps fun date nights or perhaps chores you might like done around the house, although not like in a honey-do list. When I say that to couples, I'm talking about like, wow, it would really mean a lot to me if you would, it's almost like love coupons, set some time aside to watch a funny movie with me. Or I would love perhaps extra long hugs before we leave for the day. Place those in your intimacy jar, and then throughout the week, your partner can walk over there and pull from them and know beyond the shadow of a doubt that he or she is going to make you happy. It takes out the guesswork. It's beautiful. And it's something that you're going to absolutely look forward to and enjoy, so you don't have to fret about it either. So intimacy jars, brilliant, brilliant idea. And go back and listen to episode 3 because Emma describes it probably way better than I do. And I love the rest of the suggestions that she makes. So that anticipation thing is really, really big. Also, if scheduling is an issue for you guys, make sensuality a common theme. I want you to broaden your horizons with me. Imagine sexting, flirting, like I said, making out. Imagine staying very sensually connected to your partner at all times. In fact, some have said that foreplay begins the moment of the last sexual encounter ends. So foreplay is absolutely everything in between sexual encounters. And if we walked around with that mindset, we would stay a hell of a lot more emotionally and sensually connected to our partners. So make it a game. Try to find ways throughout the day. You don't have to do anything that you're uncomfortable with, but try to find ways throughout the day to reconnect with your partner, to send a little flirty text of saying, hey, handsome, I was thinking about you, and I just wanted to let you know you're still pretty hot in my eyes, right? It doesn't have to be quote unquote crude if that is outside your worldview, etc. So number 1, schedule. We can cross that off our list. Number 2, the second big barrier that many couples come into my office to talk about is self-esteem, especially for women, but we are seeing this in increasing numbers in men as well. For those of us who don't feel utterly confident in our own skin, oh, that really hurts the mojo. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Your partner does not care what you look like. Your partner is not even so much focused on your knowledge, skill level, what you've done before them or after them. In fact, if they are, then we've got other issues at play. Feel free to bring them by your local therapist or perhaps even break up with them because that's kind of shallow. But confidence, hands down, has been rated across the board by both genders as the number 1 thing that they're looking for in a partner. You even heard Will mention it in that little intro piece. It's very, very sexy. In fact, I don't think there's anything sexier than seeing a partner very confident when they are approaching us in the bedroom. Now, does that mean that you have to lie? No, not at all. But it means that before you walk into that bedroom to play, that you ground yourself in a side of you. This is where, in my opinion, internal family systems is really helpful because it talks about all of us having different parts. And there is a component to you that handles your sensuality. There's a side of you that, even if it's been in the briefest moments, feels really, really good in being the object of someone's desire. Pull from that part. Pull from him or her. In fact, sometimes I will even have my clients name this side. Tony Robbins tells a story of a woman who was struggling in the bedroom with her husband, and when he asked her about a part, he didn't call it IFS, but it's basically the same thing. And what side of her is like that? Could she name her? She named her Cinnamon because it was the most ridiculous stripper name that she could come up with. And so every time that she was about to approach her husband for sex, she would bring Cinnamon out into the forefront of her mind. And cinnamon would be the one to take over from there. So that's a great intervention that I use frequently with clients. Body positivity cannot be overstated when it comes to its effect on our mojo and sensuality. Many women have described how helpful it has been to every day when they get out of the shower, even in the shower, to look at their naked body and really offer some gratitude or positive affirmations to it. You can stand in the mirror and say, "Hey, gorgeous, how are you doing today? You look lovely today." I know it's trippy, but it's incredible the amount of research that shows how much a positive effect it has in the brain when we talk to ourselves in the third person. In fact, we've done studies with college students where we asked two groups to either, before they were about to walk on stage to give a speech to a panel of judges who had no idea what we were measuring, we told half of the group to give themselves a pep talk before they walked on stage in the first person. For example, "I got this," "We got this." And we asked the other half to give themselves a pep talk in the third person. "You got this. You're awesome." And what was incredible was that the group that talked to themselves in the third person, hands down across the board, scored way higher from judges who had no idea what we were, again, researching. So there's something about talking to yourself in the third person. You're not crazy. In fact, other research shows that it's a sign of good intelligence, right? Be that non-judgmental observer and speak life over your body. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Hey, sexy," and thank each body part. Thank you, legs, who are powerful and strong. Maybe you don't have ballerina legs. I sure don't. Thank you for carrying the weight of my body. And thank you for always being ready to run away when need be. And thank you, womb, for those, and stretch marks, for carrying my children and for giving me these wonderful gifts that are now my daughters, etc. If self-esteem is an issue for you, I would also highly recommend, perhaps if it's an ongoing thing, that you seek out professional help, maybe a therapist or a coach or a healer. Have someone work through with you why there's such a hindrance there and find new ways of really lighting yourself up. It's also important to be able to give yourself proper nutrition and exercise. I know that's a boring one, but really true. It's hard to be sensual when you're not feeling so great. And listen, every body, see what I did there? Body is different. Some of us have been shown to do better when we wake up in the morning and get our workout out of the way. Others, like me, do best when we get to work out mid-afternoon. And some do better, getting it in before bed. Find what works for you. And not only timing, find the style that works for you. Listen, if you're not a CrossFit kind of girl, and I don't really understand those CrossFit girls, I've got mad respect for them, but I don't personally like flipping tires or having people cheer me on boot camp style. Perhaps you're more into Zumba, or perhaps, like me, you'll get some workout equipment for your house so you don't have to go to the gym. It doesn't matter. Do what works for you. Get you even a goddess or a stripper workout tape. Carmen Electra's back in the day. I rocked that shit. And it makes me feel sensual. That's the key. What's going to improve your self-esteem rather than make you feel worse about yourself? What's going to allow you to get fully, somatically back into your body and enjoying all of your senses again? Your 5 senses, and I'll even add the 6th, right, of the spiritual side, that you can call it what you want, intuition, whatever, is really important in the bedroom. So many of us distance it, and we get so, once again, caught up on the orgasm, and we get so caught up in just trying to get ourselves there that we miss out. It's almost like someone's provided you this 5-course dinner, and you're just taking the soup and walking away, or you're just rushing straight towards the dessert. Now, who doesn't like dessert? Everybody fucking likes dessert. Everybody likes to orgasm, but I'll tell you what, you'll get there faster and enjoy it better and more frequently if you indulge in all of your senses, my lovelies. So take care of you. Fuel your body properly. That brings me to another point about self-esteem. What are you wearing? Your wardrobe on a day-to-day can even be a part of this. Are you buying clothes that feel good to you? What are you wearing to bed? So many women especially just show up, right, in sweatpants or a boyfriend's t-shirt. And hey, that can be hot sometimes. I'm not saying you need to show up looking like a movie star every evening, but the focus needs to be on how you are feeling. Are you feeling good in that? And so many of the women that I work with, they don't like the quote unquote raunchy lingerie. Like they feel very uncomfortable now after having children, etc. Or maybe they were raised more conservatively. They don't want to show up in just that dental floss and with that weird type of bra that's not supporting their full-bodied breasts. Well, then girlfriend, don't. I tell you what, there are a million great designers out there. One of my favorites for not only the softness and the texture and the sensuality, but also the fit is Soma Intimates. And no, I'm not getting paid to say this. When I went in there a few years ago, I was able to buy a floor-length nightgown, though, that had spaghetti straps and it had like a lacy bra, but it was full coverage. It was full coverage and it was satin lined and it was connected to this satin nightgown, kind of like the old school sexy ones you may have seen in movies, and it had a thigh-high slit in it. The cool thing about it is that it fit so nicely. I felt like a goddess in it, and yet I actually still felt very covered up enough, just enough. It was still completely sexy, but enough that if the doorbell rang or my daughters woke up in the middle of the night, I would not feel inappropriate. And so it's really important for us to feel at home in our bodies, and yet, once again, confident in being able to approach our partners for sex. Let's talk about the third barrier to sexual intimacy and mojo for today's series anyway, and that is the lack of emotional safety between partners. Once again, as you heard me say with Will, it can be very difficult if a couple is struggling in their relationship to connect with one another in that manner again, right? The best sex happens when both of us are feeling light and carefree. And hey, relationships are often work. And so one of the first things that those of us who work with people's sex lives scan for is, where is the relationship? How's it doing? And certainly sexual intimacy can be one of the litmus tests. If they're not having sex, then we know that there's probably struggles elsewhere. And that's what I'm talking about. Couples need to feel not only that they are tolerated and accepted by one another, but they are celebrated by each other. And so if you're struggling to feel safe and vulnerable, whether you're male or female, with your partner, then I absolutely, of course, have to first recommend maybe some couples counseling. And if you've had a bad experience, then it's important to find another one, right? Because there are a million different styles of therapists with a million different modalities and a million different locations. And I swear there's the style of therapist as unique to the couple coming in. So please don't give up. Beyond that, some of the common suggestions that I make for my clients are the books Hold Me Tight by Dr. Sue Johnson, and she is one of the founders of Emotion-Focused Couples Therapy, one of my favorites, and she talks about this dance that couples get into. It's the pattern, and we all have them coming from our baggage in children, in our childhoods, and the way that we have come to relate to one another. For example, in an argument, there's often the type of person that shuts down or walks away, and there's often the type of person who wants to stay and chat and figure it out, and we might pursue the person walking away, and that can be a struggle. And so the book Hold Me Tight talks about different conversations that we can have to unpack that and change the dance, which really, at the end of the day, increases that sense of safety and emotional intimacy between us. Because one of the best ways to have the greatest sex of your life is to feel completely free with your partner. And we can't do that if we're on edge. The 5 love languages I mentioned, it's an oldie but a goodie, because it really talks about being able to reconnect with our spouse and show our partner that we appreciate them. And here's the thing, even if we've been trying to show our partner that we love them, if we're not doing it in a way that our partner most easily receives, then we don't really get anywhere and we tend to get very frustrated. And so what's beautiful about the 5 love languages is it breaks it down and helps us understand, oh, I've been complimenting you all day long, and yet that's not really what you're craving. You're craving some quality time with me, or you're craving me doing the dishes, or you're craving physical touch, and maybe not just sex. Maybe it's really important to you that when we walk outside these doors that I'm holding your hand. And if I did that, you'd feel closer to me, and if you felt closer to me, you might want to get naked with me. So if you haven't checked out 5 Love Language, check it out. One of the other books that I frequently recommend is Nonviolent Communication. And so many couples struggle with the ability to communicate, right? It's God Almighty. They need to be teaching this in kindergarten, and some teachers do, but how to communicate about everything. And if I'm in a relationship with someone where I feel like no matter what I say, the conversation goes wrong, I'm probably not going to want to play with them later on. So check out Nonviolent Communication as well. And basically, at the end of the day, when it comes to emotional safety, the goal is for us to be like a warm incubator, I describe it, for our partners to become their best selves, to feel like their best selves. And so your job, quote unquote, is to be the talent scout for your partner. You fell in love with them for a reason. What was that? What were they? Remind yourself of those. Bring them back to the forefront of your mind. Think about those memories that you have of the good times together. Maybe even compile a playlist of songs that remind you of your partner and songs that get you in the mood. Songs that help you reconnect and be able to stay that warm incubator for your partners. Because think about it, guys, if you're having a bad day or you've got something you want to celebrate, don't you want your partner to be there for that? At least on a good day, once upon a time you did? Let's hope so. If not, we probably should have a completely different conversation, okay? Once again, Esther Perel, one of my favorites. If you haven't read her book, Mating in Captivity, that could be another really great one. We probably have to do an entire other podcast on that. But she says that one of her best suggestions for people looking for a new partner or couples currently in a relationship is, how do you want to be experienced in this relationship? What is it like to be in a relationship with you? What is it like to be married to you? What is it like to have sex with you? So many times, and I'm not shitting on this because it's human nature, we automatically default to, what does this person make me feel like? How can this person meet my needs? And we miss the most empowering side of it. Some of us really enjoy being looked at a little kinky. Some of us really enjoy being looked at as being nurturing. Some of us want to come across as being wise, etc. Well, how can you show up in that power in this relationship, which will then have your needs validated back, which then in turn leads to great sex, because now we've got emotional safety. So my suggestion to you on that, besides asking you those questions, what is it like to be in a relationship with me? What is it like to have sex with me? Is to think back on all of the relationships that you've had. Maybe you've only had one. That's okay. And then think about this one. But if you've had more than one, I would imagine that you haven't always dated the exact type of person. It's very rare that a woman hasn't dated more than just an alpha male. But even so, in those relationships, that's still data to you. What was it in those relationships that allowed you to feel whatever it is that you were seeking? For example, if I want to be viewed as being nurturing and I really feel best in relationships that allow me to nurture others, then I probably need to date a man who isn't completely independent, who won't validate the fact that I'm doing nice things for him, right? Or maybe if you're already married, that whole love languages thing, it's important that he notices that you are offering whatever it is that you love to offer. Is it a great meal? Is it, a nice massage? Whatever. I know it sounds like a roundabout way, but if you want to get to hot sex, you want to get to those great orgasms, you need to feel safe with one another. And the way that we feel safe with one another is to be validated. So you have to know what you are looking for, and then your partner has to know what you are looking for. All right, guys, that's the first 3 barriers and ways to overcome them. I hope this was helpful, and I am cheering you on towards great sex, and I can't wait to chat with you again. Until next time, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Undressing the Spirit podcast. I pray you found some inspiration and titillation today. As always, I am forever grateful for 5-star reviews, comments, and subscriptions on iTunes and anywhere else you may be listening to this broadcast. Please note the information provided is not meant to convey professional, psychological, or medical advice. If you could use such services, I highly recommend seeking them out from someone you trust. To get in touch with me personally, please check out ariatherapy.com or talesfromatrapezoid.com. Until next time, everyone.